Hi everybody, this is Dr. Karen's, and in this video I'm going to show you how to find and use Practice Anatomy Lab. So this is a tool that is relevant to both ANP1 and ANP2 at Dallas College Eastfield, at least for the courses that I teach. It's a tool that is part of Mastering ANP. And so if you watched the navigation video, you'll know that Mastering AMP is really the companion site for our lecture book. They have a really great lab tool here, and I highly, highly recommend that you use it when you're studying the lab material. So there's a few ways to access Practice Anatomy Lab. If you go under Getting Started and open up Learning Materials, there's a submodule here that's called Practice Anatomy Lab. You can click on that, and then there's some directions here that will guide you and provide you a link to access it. Another way to access it is, again, under Learning Materials, open Mastering AMP, and then click on this Mastering AMP, come here to access everything link, because here is where you're going to find the resource to get to Practice Anatomy Lab. But let's say you're in the middle of working on homework and assignments and whatnot, and you're in one of these units. You can find the links that you need for Practice Anatomy Lab within each of these unit modules, and you'll find it under the Unit Study Resources module. And there's an option here for Practice Anatomy Lab Access and Study Guidance. So if you open that up, not only will you find the instructions and the link to get to Practice Anatomy Lab, but if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see here are the modules within Practice Anatomy Lab that you need for each unit. So for Unit 1, the 2 modules or topics anyway that are relevant that Practice Anatomy Lab offers resources on, tissues and integumentary system. And so for tissues, you are going to use the histology module, and then more specifically, open up these 4 different tissue modules. I'll show you that in a second. For integumentary system, you will open up histology and anatomical models. Let's go through both of these so you have an idea of how to navigate Practice Anatomy Lab. So I'm going to just scroll back up and open this Mastering AMP link. This is that link. Well, when I open it, you'll see. If you looked at the navigation video, this is the link that's part of the Mastering AMP module under Learning Materials in the Getting Started module. But let me open this up and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm opening up this link, and it hopefully looks familiar to you once it loads. But this is how you're going to access your lecture textbook, how you're going to access your chapter homework. So you see, here's our lecture textbook. I'm going to click on this Open My Lab and Mastering yellow button. I did this in the navigation video, and I showed you can find the lecture textbook here. You can find your homework, chapter homework here. But you can also access Practice Anatomy Lab through the study area. So I'm going to click on study area. I'm going to launch it. Maybe. There we go. It opens up a new window. You may have to disable some pop-up blockers here. And then once you open that study area, Practice Anatomy Lab is an option. So I'm going to click on Practice Anatomy Lab, and then you have to launch it. And when you do, here are the main modules. So go back to, let me go back here to this guidance. If I scroll down, you'll see it. Oh, I think I froze. Well, if you go back to in that unit module under study resources, click on Practice Anatomy Lab. That's where you'll see some directions on what modules to look at, but maybe I can get to it from here. If you go into the weekly assignments, I'm going to look at week 2. In the weekly instructions, it will also tell you, okay, we're learning histology during week 2. Okay, well, here's the practice anatomy lab module or modules that are relevant to histology, and they're listed right here. So histology is the main module, and then these other things after that, those are submodules. So if you're in practice anatomy lab, I'm going to open up histology as the main module, and then here you see those 4 different tissue types. So here's connective tissue. Every time you open a module in Practice Anatomy Lab, you will get the same options. There's a self-review section. This is taking some time to load. It's basically a series of slide images. So I just clicked on Show Gallery, and you can navigate through different types. We're in connective tissue here, different types of connective tissue. You will find different images for each of those categories. And then I don't know why it's taking so long to load, but if you were to click on one of those pictures, here we go, it's opened up. You can progress through all the slides in this module using these arrows, but I can show labels, and it labels things for me. You can click on the names of the items that are labeled. It'll say the name for you so you can hear how things are pronounced. You're getting different views of things. It's important to look at the title of the slide. What exactly are you looking at? There might be slides of the same thing, but you have different levels of magnification. It really depends on what you're looking at. So this is how you would start. You open up your lab exam study guide, look at all the things you need to know for connective tissues, come here and see if you can find those things. What do they look like? Make some notes down for yourself to get a feel for what things look like and how to label them just by looking at them. You want to quiz yourself too. So in each module here, there's a quiz option, which is multiple choice. I think that's a great way to start, but you can see here there's a picture, there's a pointer pointing at something, and it's asking you what cell type is highlighted. Now it's giving you some options here. This is a great way to start. But if you really want to test yourself the way that I'm going to test you, and you should do this before every lab quiz and every lab exam, you want to choose the lab practical because that is fill in the blank. Now, again, it's taking time to load, but you will see what you saw with the quiz. There'll be an image, there'll be something, there'll be a pointer pointing to something, and it will ask you to name it, and then you have to type in the name. Your lab quizzes and your lab exams are all fill in the blank, and there is not a word bank. So this is the best way to practice this. A lot of the images that you're going to see on your lab quizzes and lab exams are from Practice Anatomy Lab. So this is the best tool for you to use to study. I'm going to exit this and I want to open up the other module that was part of Unit 1. So I'm going back to weekly instructions. So skin is probably week 3. Yes, here. So in week 3, it tells you, okay, we're going to look at the integumentary system. Okay, for Practice Anatomy Lab, that means under integumentary system, you need to look at histology and anatomical models. What does that look like? Let's go back. Practice Anatomy Lab, integumentary system. Okay, histology and anatomical models. Histology will look a lot like what we were just looking at with tissues, because that's what histology is. It's tissues, so you see a lot of tissue slides. I want to go back to anatomical models because when we get into things like bone and muscle and even like the brain and spinal cord, you want to be able to identify items on different models. If you were taking this face to face, you would be using the models that we have in lab, but this is the next best thing. So again, you can show the gallery if you want. You can show the labels, and everything gets highlighted as you scroll over them with your mouse. So this is what you want to do. Pick quiz, pick lab practical, do those things to help um, figure out what you know well and what you don't know that well. So again, every weekly instruction under each of these units will tell you if there's a relevant practice anatomy lab module or modules, and it tells you which ones. How do you get to it? Well, there's a link directly right here to Mastering A&P, or again, go back to each of those units, look under Study Resources, and open up Practice Anatomy Lab, and there'll be a link to Mastering A&P, which will take you to Practice Anatomy Lab.